All right, welcome back. This is the fourth and final piece of Level Agency's Core 4, the 4 tactics that every college and university, without question, have to deploy, and not only deploy, but deploy well, to maximize the return on marketing investment and make sure in this upcoming new era of incredible demand for your programs that you guys are capturing every inquiry for the lowest cost per acquisition. So these, again, are the baseline tactics that at minimum you got to be doing in the 21st century to make sure your marketing is doing its job in driving more inquiries for lower cost per enrollments. So again, the fourth thing we're going to talk about is the use of landing pages. We'll define a little bit what landing pages are, and then we'll jump into kind of how to go about that, how to deploy them, and what the benefits are. So at a high level, they used to be called microsites. I guess some people still use the word microsites. Landing pages are very simple. We'll call them a flat student or inquiry experience. It's a website, a very simple website that only has one job. Its only job is when someone visits it is to start a conversation with that prospective student. In general, you do not send any paid traffic. That's any paid advertisement, even traditional on billboards or whatever. If you have a URL or you have the ability to send a prospective student from a search engine or a social network or a banner ad, if you can decide where people visit and the desired outcome is to have them inquire and have conversations with your admissions team, if the goal is to drive new students, you do not, under any circumstances, drive them either to your homepage or to a program or degree page on your main website. You do not do that. It sets money on fire. Why? Your website, and certainly your homepage, has a bunch of different jobs. It's got to talk to current students, prospective students, the press, the media, the court of public opinion. It's got a bunch of jobs. It has to deliver a bunch of different information. There's just the quantity of content that are on your website, what's called, what I call the main marketing website. It's a ton of information. It does 9 different jobs, and it does them all okay, maybe. Most college and university websites, from a inquiry generation standpoint, a lead gen, a direct response standpoint, are absolutely terrible. But even if they're not terrible, they're not as good as they should be. If you decide or can decide to drive any prospective student, so again, everything we've talked about in the Core 4 and any other type of paid advertising, if you can send them to a website, you do not send them to your program, your nursing page on your website, or your business page, or even the campus website, if you've got a bunch of campuses. You do not send them to your homepage. This sets money on fire. You're going to build out what used to be called microsites. They're now called landing pages. You can call them either, I don't care. Because you got to do one job and do it right. You send people to a website, you got to start a conversation, engage that prospective student. That's what landing pages do. That's its only job. Number one. And number two, from what the outcomes are, what are the benefits, at the end of the day, you're going to get more inquiries. It's going to be a lower cost per inquiry. Why? Because the landing page is better at that job than sending it anywhere else. So let's talk about landing pages. Now I'll put a few examples up over here in terms of what I think are some bad ones and some good ones, and I'll apologize to any school that it comes off the top of my head to put as a not good example, but it's vitally important that you not mess this up. So when you do a landing page, we run our agency. I'm working with this company for, before I started my agency, I actually worked with them when I worked for education management, is a company called ION, and it's what I would consider the Rolls Royce of landing page hosting and WYSIWYG building tools. So it's an environment where you're just building landing pages. I'm not a designer or a developer, and a business professional, marketing professional can actually, once someone designs a template, change things incredibly quickly. So you can use an enterprise-grade landing page platform like ION. You can still do them in WordPress. You can use any platform to build a web page you can use. I would encourage you to invest the money because, again, we're talking about your pipeline of new students. This is your efficiency. This is your lifeblood. A low cost per inquiry leads to a low cost per enrollment. Okay, that's really, really, really important. So I think this is from an expenditure standpoint, it's important. but at minimum, have your development team or your web team spin up unique landing pages that have the following attributes. One, you have to have all of the calls to action that you feel that your demographic wants. What does that mean? It means above the fold. So again, above when you click onto a website, the stuff that you can see without scrolling down, that's called above the fold. You're gonna have at least the following three things. Number one, a unique 800 number. Not the same 800 number that you use for your website and your other landing pages. It has to be a unique 800 number. Because if you don't have a unique 800 number, you can't track just the people that came to that site. Unique 800 numbers cost about $1 a month through Twilio or any other telephony platforms. There's a dozen out there. I'm not going to list them. They're cheap. You should have 20, 30, 50 unique 800 numbers that all drive to the same end number, but you got to be tracking things specifically. So unique 800 number, a lead gen form or an inquiry or request for information, a RIF, and you got to have maybe a chat feature or maybe a few links for to download some information about your program of interest or your campus, and make that content be gated. Where at minimum the prospective student has to, let's say I want to download a pamphlet about your nursing program. Well, make sure when you want them to download that or you let them download that, you say, hey, put your email in, we'll send you a link to it, versus not capturing any information. But the key for landing pages is above the fold, have the calls to action, the things you want someone to do, be front and center. A unique 800 number, request for information form, and maybe some kind of gated content or content to provide the prospective student. Maybe you have a chat feature. Those are phenomenal. But at minimum, you got to have those things above the fold. And one important thing, if you go to your landing pages, and everyone listening to this right now should check. If you go to your, let's say you have landing pages, which is awesome. If you go to your landing pages and you see it has 5, 6, 7 fields to fill out, that is a bad user experience, and you are getting fewer inquiries than you should be, and you're getting a higher cost per inquiry. You need to use and test what we'll call a progressive form, having at a time only 2 or 3, and I know some of my peers who run other digital agencies have their best practices, but you never want to throw a 5, 8, 10 field, like fill out all these things on one page. That destroys your conversion rate, your take rate, and it's not a good user experience. So when you do have a landing page and you do have a good request for information, this is an example of like, you got to do more than just check the box. Because if you've got a landing page and you've got 7 fields, first name, last name, email address, phone number, program of interest, campus, whatever, if you got all those things, it's destroying your conversion rate. And it's just beyond not best practice. So again, you got to do more than check the box. You got to do these things right. So use landing pages, but do it correctly. All right. And the final thing I'll say is probably the most obvious, but you'd be surprised. A lot of colleges, especially smaller colleges, don't do this. You don't have the website mobile optimized. In general, it is a mobile-first world. I think 18 months ago was finally when more than 50% of web traffic was on phones or tablets, but certainly for associates and diploma associates and baccalaureate levels, most of your prospective students are under 30, under 25. They're living mobile first. So you have to design your website, your landing pages to be mobile first. They have to look good on a phone. They have to look good. If they don't look good, that is probably the worst sin from a conversion rate and an ROI standpoint. So again, not just use landing pages as the 4th of our core 4, but you got to do them correctly and have the right attributes. They got to be mobile first, have to have the right calls to action above the fold. But in general, that is why you don't send prospective students to your homepage or any website that's just tied to your main homepage or your main campus page. Because you got to do one job and do it right, and that is turn a visitor into a conversation. And that's what landing pages do better than your main marketing site or your homepage.